Can everybody hear me? Delco Steve, can you hear me? Delco Steve cannot hear me. It takes a second for the audience to register here. So we'll see. Yes, so this is a Delco Steve problem. What's up, everybody? What's going on, Delco Steve? What are you doing?
I have no idea what was going on there.
So you can hear me now.
I can hear you now. I just re-clicked my settings, and I'm like, it has to be me if he started.
Yeah, because you couldn't hear me, so I was just like, all right, well, I'm going to start, and then we'll find out real fast if it's me or him.
Yep.
But you fixed it without fixing it.
Yeah, I went to my MacBook speaker and then went back to my AirPods, and it worked. But it wasn't working on my MacBook speaker either, so.
Right.
No clue.
Well, sometimes you just have to toggle in, toggle out.
Yep.
Well, we are here on a Thursday night. Phils are losing. This feels like a loss. I don't have it on the TV here.
You're lucky.
It was 4-0. It's worse now.
8-3.
Oh God. Did Schwarber get a home run at least?
Nope. Don't. I have that too.
So
Nola's costing me a day.
Yeah, Nola. I watched the first couple innings. He was getting smashed around. Didn't have his command tonight. The team at Bet Parks, the Out of the Parks with John Mark show, we came up with something, and it was after. Of course, it was after he hit the 2 home runs. But we looked back and we said, all right, because the June Schwarber thing, what is it a wise investment to bet on him hitting a home run every night? What would it look like at the end of the month? So we went back and looked at last month, and it's not how many home runs, it's how many games he hits a home run. Because if you have him hitting 1 home run, he can have 50 home runs in a game. You still get the same outcome, unless you're betting multiple home run games. So what was it? I think it was 7 or 8 games last year where he had home runs. He had multiple home runs in 3 games. And if you divided that up by the amount of games, essentially Schwarber, with what it's paying out tonight, it's minus 300 for a home run. Last night I think it was
plus
minus
300.
Plus 300. Last night was plus 360 on the BetParks app. So he essentially has to hit a home run every 3 games for it to. You're pretty much breaking even, maybe making $1 or $2, maybe making a little bit of money. That's tough, man. So Maniac Malloy and Sam Stafford are betting $10 every game that he hits a home run from here on out.
Yeah, I didn't have it like I was going to do it game 1 of this series, and I did Harper instead. And of course, first pitch, no less. I was like,
yep.
And as soon as you see that, you're like, oh well, Harper's definitely not hitting one now. Like that was too easy.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Oh yeah, he was a fucking meatball. He smashed that. So we'll keep you updated on the game. This looks like a loss. The Red Sox rallied to win last night. Chris Sanchez gave up some runs. He didn't look great. And then Nola doesn't look great tonight. But I mean, overall, real fast on the Phillies losing Real Muto. Yep. I saw a lot of people saying that it wasn't that big of a loss and they'll be fine. This is a huge fucking loss. Because, Garrett Stubbs is fine at throwing out base stealers and things like that. If Garrett Stubbs is playing once a week, I'm fine with Garrett Stubbs. I'm not fine with Garrett Stubbs playing 4 or 5 days a week. And then you have Rafael Marchand. Listen, for the most part, if my catcher can bat .230 and maybe have 10 home runs and 50 RBIs and he's good at handling his staff and he's good defensively, I'm okay with that. Real Muto isn't that. Real Muto, he has played a lot better than his numbers look this year. I don't know if you agree with that, Delco Steve, but he has been, and he's been tough. He's taken balls off the balls. I mean, he's had like concussions and shit like that. So he's the best catcher in baseball. It's been a great trade that they've made. He was comfortable in that 2 spot. And you lose Trey Turner and you're like, all right, well, JT slides right in. Now you're cool. Think about this. And I know Trey's going to be back soon. The Phillies have lost 2 starting caliber players. Of their 8 regulars, Trey Turner's an all-star starter type. And JT Realmuto is an all-star starter, right? And you have 2 of them that are out with injuries. That's crazy. I mean, that's not losing a Cy Young favorite and using an MVP favorite like the Braves did, but still, like that's huge. Losing JT is a lot bigger deal than people are making it out to be. Delco Steve.
Well, I mean, just from these 30 games of the series, you had the Red Sox are the 3rd highest strikeout team in the league. So this has been like my reintroducing myself into baseball is betting on these strikeout pitchers versus teams that strike out a lot. So the Red Sox are one of the teams that I target for pitchers against. I bet Wheeler. He had 4. Yep. I actually didn't bet Sanchez last night after seeing Wheeler only do 4. And then tonight I went in on Nola's strikeouts thinking like, all right, he pitches better. He gets more strikeouts when it's hotter. Like it's a hot day. Like he should be doing well. Well, now you're seeing these guys not get strikeouts as much because, like, in my opinion, it's probably because JT knows how to call the game a lot better than Stubbs and Marchand do.
Yep. Yeah, you can talk about throwing runners out and blocking balls and things like that. Handling the staff is something that isn't as tangible as these other things, right? And you just talked about it. You're right. It's a huge blow. Like Vince says they're up 10 games. It's okay. Yeah, it definitely helps that it's up 10 games. Like I'm not sitting here saying hit the panic button and the Phillies are fucked. But this is a big deal to lose JT Realmuto. This is a big deal. It's a big loss. And I don't think that they're going to go out and get a like I don't know how long he's going to be out. You heard the Phillies say 4 weeks. You could go conservative.
It's probably going to be like 4 to 6.
Yeah, let's say 6 weeks. So he's back prior to the trade deadline. He's back in like the second to last week of July, and they can sustain that. Marsh is going to be back. Hopefully soon. Trey Turner's going to be back soon. So I mean, like I'm not telling you that it's. I mean, they're going to lose series. The Phillies aren't going to continue at this pace, or they're going to lose series. But hey, I'm just saying, JT Realmuto is a big loss. It's a bigger loss than Trey Turner. Because Sosa's been really good stepping in. They haven't lost anything with Sosa being between Stott and Sosa. They haven't lost anything. This is going to be a huge drop off, and that's why it's a bigger deal to me.
And Clemens before he got hurt was doing well, like in his pinch hits and his spot starts.
Yep.
So it's like if Stubbs doesn't produce and this, so I mean obviously I don't know much about Marchand, but just from what they've been talking about on the telecast, apparently he can't hit a beach ball. And
no, he stinks.
It's like he's like they were like, oh yeah, he's going to be a great defensive catcher in the major leagues, but can he hit the ball? And so far, it doesn't look like.
Well, if people remember, he was up. It might have even been 2 years ago. He was up when they needed. I forget the scenario why he was their part.
I watched more baseball this year than I have all of definitely 2 years ago. So I definitely did not see him.
And like he was considered. There was a lot of talk that they were going to try to use him as a potential trade piece. Now he wasn't going to be. I'm actually going to Google it right now. He wasn't going to be like even like a first player in a trade, but he could have been like a third or a fourth player if they were trying to make a big trade. And he just never, he really hasn't been back since then. And his bat kind of is what it is. He even in the minors. Let me see the last time he played. Yeah, so he had 56 plate appearances in 2021. And he batted .231 at a home run. But I remember him being like, well, defensively and handling the staff, he looks pretty good, but he's got his bat to work on. Well, it really hasn't improved in the minors. So anyway, you're not going to be able to rely on him to be even like a 3-day-a-week guy. And like, listen, I don't want to sit here and shit on Stubbs, but I'm not a fan of Garrett Stubbs. He's cute. Like you want to pat him on the head when he plays once a week or whatever, but he's not even close to an everyday catcher. So we'll see. Yeah, I guess Vince is reporting that John Ritchie said 2 weeks. Well, the Phillies said 4 weeks, so I don't. Maybe he's back in 2 weeks, but it's not a tear. They're removing the meniscus, and then I guess they're putting in a new meniscus or whatever. I don't know. But they're saying it's really not that serious. So I'm not like freaking out about it, but it's a big loss. No doubt about it. So We'll see.
I don't know what happened. I guess I lost some connection there. But
Yeah, you
wasn't
got booted
the
off.
Ohapi like the catcher
Logan,
we traded to,
for Marsh.
like he was supposed to be like the stud offensive catcher
Yep.
out
And
of like out of
he
the, was
got
that like with
hurt.
the two of them?
He got hurt. He hurt his shoulder last year. Was out for the year, and I think he was hurt already once this year. Yeah, I
He
was.
did go out this year.
Yeah, I was a.
I
I
think
was a
he's
big.
back.
Yeah, he is back. I think he was back when the Phillies played him. He is batting 270 with 8 home runs. So there you go.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
That's pretty good for 196 at bats. Yeah, he's a stud. But when you have JT and you're in a win mode now, like win
Right.
now mode, I'm okay with it. But yeah, Phillies have produced. They produce a lot of catchers. It's like, but a guy that has that kind of a bat is what stands out. When he has 8 home runs, isn't something to sneeze about. With 200 at bats, if you put that over the course of 550, that's 20 home runs, which is huge. So, all right, we have that. Some people have been asking me about the minivan. I don't know if you saw on Instagram, Delco Steve.
I did. I saw it right before we started.
So now that my wife's at work and she's at work, she goes in the office 3 days a week. So tomorrow she's like, it's the hybrid role, so she'll be working from home tomorrow. But like I'm in the mode of being like, all right, like I got the kids, I got all 3, they're done school. They'll drive me nuts if I can't just sit in the house. We got to go out and do stuff. It's like every day I'm trying to do so. We've been going to a lot of parks. We've been doing this, doing that. So today, because it was hot, it was sunny, I set up the water tables, and it had the hose and a bunch of other stuff. And I was like, you know what, we're gonna wash the car. I didn't get around to washing the outside of the car because the inside of the car took so damn long. The inside of a minivan with kids is almost as bad as if you ever I dropped my AirPod in an airplane, and it went under the seat, but it went so awkwardly under the seat. I had to wait till the end of the flight and let everybody go, because I had to literally like get all the way down on my chest and get my arm all the way back. And dude, I don't know if I've recovered from that experience. The fucking shit you see back there. But the minivan is close to that experience. It really is. So yeah. So that's what I was doing, and it's all clean.
I feel like the minivan would be worse. I feel like the minivan would be worse.
A pee diaper was found back there. A pee diaper from a pull-up. My daughter's wearing pull-ups because she refuses to be potty trained. She's being a real pain. And I don't even know when it's from, but you could feel it was heavy. It really didn't smell all that much, but it was underneath the one seat. And it's like, well, how did that get back there? But so that was the craziest. It's just some goldfish, so a cheese wrapper, some other things like that. So there you go.
But
Man, Delco Steve's connection tonight. Your connection tonight, Delco Steve.
Dude, it's I don't know what's going on. Yeah, give me a second. I'll be back.
We may have too many people on your Wi-Fi, so let's do that. Well, and by the way, we'll get to the Mount Rushmore in a second, because I actually do want to talk about it. And I don't know. I guess it's afternoons doing Mount Rushmore on WIP. I saw Elliot's Eagles Mount Rushmore, which I thought was interesting. But if a show's doing Mount Rushmores, see, here's the thing: all you guys are talking about it, and they're still watching. So all the whining, you're doing Mount Rushmores, you're watching it. So like, what do you want him to? You want him to say Jalen Hurts, is he going to be good this year? No, I think he's going to suck. No, he's going to be great. You can come back on Delco Steve. We're good. No, he's good. No, I don't think he's good. We overrated him. No, I think he's great. Is he more 2023 Jalen Hurts, or is he 2022 Jalen Hurts? 215-592-9494. Marks and Reese, 215-592. You know what I mean? Like, is that what you want him to do? Or like just try something different? I don't know, man. 4 every show all week? Yeah, like try something different. I applaud him. But like, I love the different categories. For a while we did the Rushmore at 4. And then back when I worked middays at the Fanatic, I used to do with Sean Brace during February. It was a shticky thing. We would do Mount Rushmores. and we were kind of making fun of ourselves. But if you do, like Vince, you do a Mount Rushmore of bad relievers, bad Phillies relievers, yeah, that's fun. You don't have to make it stupid. Like honestly, I would rather listen to a Mount Rushmore of bad Phillies relievers, than, hey, how can we recook and reheat the soup on the stove about Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni every day? Because that's the alternative, people. That's the alternative. And then I know some people out there will say, well, the Phillies are the best team in baseball. Talk about the Phillies. Okay, what are you going to talk about with the Phillies for 4 hours? Doesn't work like that. Trust me. Oh, Jeff Geary, that's not fair. That's not fair. Jeff Geary's not a terror. Now, are we talking about like bad relievers that we liked or notable bad relievers? I don't know. Because there's been a lot of bad relievers worse than like Toby Borland. Actually, like Vince, if you Google Toby Borland's numbers aren't all that bad, I don't think. And I say this because I think I looked at him not that long ago. Because there's nobody that likes watching bad Phillies than me. Let me see. Toby Borland in 50 games in 1995 had a 3.77 ERA. 9 years in the bigs, 4.17 ERA. That's not bad. That's not bad at all. But anyway, Delco Steve is having some issues. Yeah, what happened to JD Hammer? See, what AAA team is he pitching for right now? He's awesome. Let me see. JD Hammer is currently he hasn't pitched in the majors since the Phillies. Let's see, is he down in the minors somewhere? Let me see. He's out of baseball. He isn't even pitching. He was in AAA last year. He's not even pitching this year. But anyway, yeah. So when they talked about the Phillies, they were trying to make scenarios to bring in a first baseman to move Harper to right. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. That's what I'm saying. Like, doing day-to-day Phillies talk is tough, especially when you get to June and July. What do you want them to do? Say, do you think the season's over? We lost JT Realmuto, and have somebody overreact and say, like, the Phillies aren't going to win or whatever, right? Like, it's just, I'm just telling you from a rating standpoint and everything else, it's difficult to do that. Not enough people care to hear that. That's all I'm saying. So yeah, I mean, Delco Steve should definitely. I texted her, by the way. Herb's mad at me because I wasn't answering his phone calls. So I think he's mad at me because he hasn't called in a couple days, and I texted him and he didn't reply back, at least not yet. He could be sleeping. It's 9:19. But anyway, not drinking tonight, Michael Richmond. That was last Thursday. I was on for 2 hours with Maniac Malloy because Delco Steve was at the wedding, which we didn't even get a recap yet from Delco Steve on the Delco wedding. But anyway, I saw that you back.
Let's see. Well, hopefully.
All right.
I just reset everything, so should be good.
Honestly, you probably have too many devices on your Wi-Fi.
It's the same amount of devices that's always been on my Wi-Fi.
Really?
So,
well, that's what happens. That's what happens to me, or that's what happens when my wife is working at home, and I'll be down in the basement, and I'll have the streaming TV on, and then I'll have be doing something on my phone, and I'll have the laptop going on, and she'll be like, oh. So anyway, we'll check it. So how about Merrill Reese getting in the Hall of Fame today? Uncle Merrill.
I have a hot take. Yeah. I don't like Merrill Reese. Like, I like him as a dude. I think he's a great dude. I don't appreciate his play-by-play at all.
Really?
Yeah, I know I'm in the minority. When I get stuck to listen to the game on the radio, I'm just like, I can't.
Now, what don't you like about Merrill Reese? Because I can tell you this, that is an extremely unpopular opinion.
Oh, I know it is.
And it's one that Philadelphia fans do not want to hear.
There you go. I don't like his hyperbole. Like, it's just like, it's always something. He's like my last straw was like years ago. It was like, he's got this guy on skates and they're on the field. I'm like, dude, okay, you're not drawing me a picture here. Like, I don't think you
What,
like the
25,
description.
20, 15, 10? That's not a picture.
No, I'm saying like when he's talking about no, like when he's like saying like, oh, he was on ice skates and he's wearing cleats, and I'm just like, that was like the last time I was like, okay, I can't do this anymore.
That was the final straw.
Yeah, I don't. That was over a decade ago, and I don't think I've really ever listened to a game on the radio since.
Wow.
Yeah,
Well, I mean, I will be totally honest. I don't turn my radio down or my TV down and my radio up.
I can't stand that
to listen to the Eagles broadcast. I'm flipping on commercials. I'm flipping the Red Zone, or I have Red Zone on my phone. Like I am very, very active during Eagles games. I'm not just paying attention to the Eagles games.
Yeah,
but
Tim.
when I get in the car, like Mike and Merrill, and by the way, like I obviously working at WIP, and Merrill was a part of the Brandon Graham show for, I want to say, probably 4 years that I was doing it before he stopped coming down. Because for Merrill, he would have to drive down. He lives in Bluebell. He would have to drive down after doing the game and traveling on a Monday from Bluebell to South Philly Chickens and Pete's. That's a brutal drive. Merrill's getting up there in age, or he's up there in age a little bit. He doesn't need to be making that drive every week. So he stopped doing it. And Merrill has been great to me. Merrill, very, very gracious and kind. And
I think he's an amazing dude. I think he's like one of the nicest dudes I've ever met. Like, not that I've had extended conversations with him.
I have no issues with anybody that says they don't like a broadcaster for whatever reason. I'm stating that Merrill.
But I have broadcasters I dislike because I just think they're like assholes. Like, this is not the case. He's not the type of person I like. I need more like to the fact, talking about it than I don't know, like the hyperbole description of what's going on.
Yeah, I believe Harry Mays has also said on the air that he's not a big Merrill Reese fan. And the only reason I say that is because when Harry got let go from the Fanatic, or Harry elected not to stay at the Fanatic, which is what happened. I saw Merrill, and Merrill goes, "Did Harry Mays get fired from the Fanatic?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "He ripped me on the air and said this." And I'm like, "Oh, sorry, Merrill." So I doubt Merrill heard it live, but someone told him. Regardless, I don't know, but that's what he said.
So I hope you get a text saying, "Oh, did Delco Steve say he didn't like me?"
Right. It gets back to him. Merrill's a good dude. Who's older, Merrill or Eskin? I think Howard's 30. He's just turned 70.
Yeah, he wishes.
I think Howard just turned 70. Merrill's in his 80s.
I was saying Merrill's got to be older.
So Howard, according to Wikipedia, just turned 73. And when you Google Howard Eskin, Merrill comes up because he tweeted out. The Merrill and Howard relationship is pretty funny, especially when you see it up close, because it's like Merrill's beloved. Howard is, if you're talking about a number one seed of Philadelphia sports, whether you like Howard or not, he's a number one seed, right? Like he may be the number one seed. So I know Mike Missinelli would, like, if I said that, he would be pissed. He'd be like, "I crushed him in the ratings," or whatever. Regardless of Mike getting better ratings than Howard, and Mike's a better radio host. He just is. But Howard is an institution when it comes to Philadelphia sports, period. So is Merrill, right? So Merrill, and I think Howard drives Merrill crazy with being Howard, and it's just like they're like grumpy old men going back and forth, and it's very, very funny. And they do like each other, but it's very, very funny when you listen to the broadcast and you know kind of the inside of it. Yeah. So it is awesome. It is awesome. But
congratulations, Dan.
Yes, congratulations to Merrill. Delco Steve hates him.
I love it. You were about to say something nice, and I'm just like, "Oh, by the way."
Merrill's 81 according to Wikipedia, and he'll be 82 coming up. And like, listen, if you listen to the broadcast, right? Think about this, and this is what's amazing about Merrill. and it's because he takes better care of himself than Harry did. Harry Kalas sounded like he was 100. That last year, listen to the World Series call. He's like, "Here's the pitch." He sounded like Merrill's. I think Harry was 70 when he died, wasn't he? He really wasn't that old when you think about it. Let me see. No, he was. So he was 73 when he died. He was 73. So he was 72. He just turned 73. He was 72 when he was calling it. I'm not telling you that's not old, but like.
But he looks another 15 years older than that on top of it.
He lived the baseball. It's a long season. It's a long, lonely road. A lot of road games. A lot of hotel bars. Smoking cigarettes. He smoked cigarettes and he drank a lot. All right, good question by Jimbo. More imitated, Harry or Merrill? It's hard to beat Harry, man. And he has been dead for 15 years. Think about that. Fucking Harry Kalas has been dead for 15 years. That's crazy.
I would say Harry, probably.
It's close, though.
Yeah.
And it's also because it's easier to have a signature like, "Here's the long drive out of here." Merrill has great touchdown calls and things like that, but
they're never the same, though.
Right.
Like, well, I guess you could do it for the tush. You could do the tush, have a tush push one for the Eagles.
Yeah. All right. There you go. Yeah. So HK is a number one seed. I'm not trying to compare Merrill and Harry because they're both beloved with baseball announcers because they're such a part of. If you're a baseball fan, as I've been, and growing up pretty much watching every Phillies game for every year. Like the broadcasters become like you watch for the broadcasters as much as you're watching the game. Merrill does 17 games and preseason games on the radio. And like you were saying earlier, Steve, a lot of people don't even hear it. They hear the highlights. But unless you're in the car or you're listening at home, you're watching the broadcast. So
we have a buddy whose dad would come to watch when we have watch parties for the games. And he would sit there listening to Merrill on the phone and tell us what the play was before it got ran on TV. And I was just like, I am literally going to lose my shit.
That's funny. Scott and LA are great. I got to tell you, Tom McCarthy, I think is awesome. And Crucker is amazing.
I like McCarthy. Kruk, when Kruk's good, he's good. But then when he gets so sidetracked, I'm just like, oh my god! Like someone cut his mic off, please.
A little bit too much. You know what? I was thinking about this the other night. How was he the face of ESPN baseball for so long, Crocker?
I loved him on ESPN when I was a kid. He's completely different now than
he's not goofy. So think about this. He was always thought as being goofy. He did not like the media when he was a player. None of those 93 players were media friendly. The exact opposite. So but he was always a little bit out there. Then he gets on ESPN and he's kind of like this serious baseball guy. He was their baseball guy for a long time. And then he gets laid off and he seems like he is very happy with not having to work for ESPN anymore because now he's back to being Crucker. And I don't know. I enjoy I think it's legitimate criticism. Sometimes I wish they'd concentrate a little bit more on the game, but it's also where you get the Mexican prison story that he's telling, how they went and played at the Mexican prison and they're trying to take his hat off. But anyway.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. Some of the side pieces are great and they're hilarious. But I forget, there was one the other game in Boston that they were just, I'm like, are you guys really talking about I wouldn't talk about this in front of my parents, sort of thing. I don't remember. Right. I wish I remember what it was. I just remember being like, "What the hell?" And they were like, "Oh, we're gonna get in trouble here." I'm like, I don't know how you haven't got cut off yet.
Crucker's loved. He is, and let me say this:
I love when he talks baseball. And
he's great 100%. At doing it. He gives insights that the good commentators give.
I love when he criticizes the ump too. I always crack up.
Oh yeah, there's nothing better than LA when he goes off on the ump. And I'll say this about Larry Anderson because Larry did the Marks and Reese show for 7 years every Wednesday. And a lot of those years, they weren't good. And even the years that they were good, Larry says a lot of shit that if he wasn't beloved, they would have whacked him. But he's too popular, and he knows it. And a lot of times he would say something on our show, and I would tell Jack or I would tell Andrew Porter, don't put that on Twitter. Don't put his quote on Twitter. Don't put the audio out there because you're going to get him in trouble. So he can say it on the air. Let's just not put it out there. Yeah. And like sometimes you had to protect him from himself, but you know why it was worth doing that? Because it kept him on our show. Because I'm sure they didn't want him. The Phillies didn't want him doing our show every week, especially when he's talking shit all the time. I mean, and even when they were still good, if they got on a losing streak, certain stuff like Aaron Nola drove him crazy. Even Bryce kind of drove him crazy for a while. But LA's awesome. But he's so popular, it would have been really difficult for the Phillies to move on from him, for being honest. And it's the one thing, and I think it's with some of the other announcers in town, they're very pro Phillies, and LA gives honest criticism. Crucker will give some honest criticism, and we appreciate that. We realize there's a bullshit factor, and we don't want to hear that everything's fine when it's not. We don't want to, when a guy makes a mistake, for it not to be pointed out. And it doesn't have to be personal. It doesn't have to go over the top, but that's why I listen to Scott and LA, is because you get real analysis of it and you trust them. And that's why they're great. Scott and LA are great. I love them. And shout out to Scott. I know he lost his dad a couple weeks ago. So that was, I texted with him when he got back on the air and was like, yo man, I've actually just heard about it. So, God bless. But yeah, so those guys are great. What are the other, oh yeah, one more thing here. Yeah. Lenny Dykstra apparently is living in Scranton, and he has he had a stroke, and he was begging for help on Twitter.
How so?
I can read it because I sent it to one of Darren Dalton's good friends, Mark Abellino, who works on the board of the Darren Dalton Foundation. But after Dutch died, I was working with Howard that night, and Howard had said, hey, I can get Lenny on. And I thought about it.
You told this story before.
Did I tell the story on here?
Yeah.
And Lenny's such a piece of shit. And I was like, I hate him. And I don't want, I'm like, I really don't. But then I'm thinking, I'm like, all right, like who out there would do Dutch justice in talking about him? He just passed away. Like Dutch was close with him, right? Dutch was close with him. And I'm like, you know what? All right, fine. And he was such a piece of shit during the interview. And I only want to repeat some of the stuff that he said not about anything about Dutch, and at Mark Abellino, he's like, don't put him on. And I'm like, dude, like, I'm going to put him on. And he's like, I told you. And I'm like, I'm sorry. Like, I really shouldn't have done it. Like, I felt bad about it. But so whoever the Lenny Dykstra account is, and by the way, whoever used to run the Lenny Dykstra account before he went to jail threatened to kill me on a DM on Twitter. What's the guy's name? Something Herman. It was this super fan dude that I don't even remember what I was saying, but I was saying on the air, I'm like, I think his name's George Herman. I was like, this guy is like this guy's a loser. Like, he's just some fanboy. Like, don't even this isn't Lenny tweeting this, but whoever's managing Lenny Dykstra's account says, Lenny Dykstra nails here. I just suffered a stroke and am living in Scranton, moving to Philly soon. I'm 61 years old, and then he puts his birth date, 2/10/1963. Who has experience and can help me with applying for SSDI and Social Security? Will be a huge help. Thank you.
That seems way too put together for someone who just had a stroke.
Also, welcome to Book Events. Oh yeah, perfect. Like all of the grammar and the punctuation's perfect. Also, welcome to Book Events, shows, autographs, or dinner with me. Text 310-307-9406. Nails never fails, Lenny Dykstra, and then a bunch of hashtags. And then there's a picture of Lenny on the cover of Sports Illustrated. Yeah, so Lenny's one of the worst human beings ever. And I'll just leave it at that. And he has no money. And he probably just did have a stroke because he's 61 and he's a fucking drug addict and was drinking and smoking his whole life. So whatever.
That tracks.
Hope he rots. But anyway, well, there you go, Lenny Dykstra. Yeah. I mean, and by the way, some of the responses, I was looking at some of the replies. It's like, hey, Lenny, if you're ever in Florida, come hang out. It's like, you idiot. Somebody just posted this for him. He said he had a stroke. He's in Scranton. You think he's going to come to Florida and hang out with you?
Yeah.
Lenny, when are you coming to Florida to visit Straw? Idiot. Actually, Vince was, Lenny follows me too, Vince. Vince in our chat here was, said you should move to Westchester. You're a legend, praying for you, sir. Like, screw you. He's the worst. Anyway, yeah, so with some other things here. And so Elliot had a tweet.
Oh, we're gonna play the game?
We're gonna play the game, but I'm also gonna. So I guess the afternoon show, right when you were starting to disconnect, right when you were losing your connection, I said that the afternoon show is doing. They're doing all this week. They're doing 4 Mount Rushmores a day, one each hour.
They do this all the time.
No, I know, and like they get mad about it. People are like, oh, they're doing Mount Rushmores or whatever. And I'm like, I'd rather have them do this than say, Spike says Jalen Hurts sucks and Ike says Jalen Hurts is great, 215-592-9494. Or like just burn the Nick Sirianni talking to the ground. I would rather have, just they have to be creative about it or whatever. But so Elliot puts out his Eagles Mount Rushmore. Now, Delco Steve, I'll ask you and I'll give you a couple seconds to think about it. With your Eagles Mount Rushmore. Now, I will say that this can be players, coaches. I don't know about can you put Jeffrey Lurie on the Eagles Mount Rushmore? I don't think you can put the owner on the Mount Rushmore. But do we agree general managers, coaches, and players all eligible, or just the players?
I feel like you'd have to do 2 different ones, but yeah, it would be if you were doing it for all for the entire organization. Yeah, you could do all 3.
All right, so minus no owner, and I'll allow coaches and general managers. What is your Eagles Mount Rushmore? I could give you Elliott's if you want while you think about it, and we can debate that. So Elliott has Brian Dawkins. Any complaint there?
No.
Jason Kelsey.
No.
Donovan.
I would have to think on that one. Who's 4th?
I don't have to think. No freaking chance. No chance is Donovan
I don't think
on a Mount Rushmore.
No, I would more than likely agree with you, but I'm trying to think of the whole where would he even rank? Could he even be a possibility for me? Sort of thing. That's what I'm thinking of.
Right. So I mean,
if I'm just going my favorite players, then no. But if I'm talking instrumental. So
I think you have to be objective here, and you have to look at everything, which is for instance, he doesn't have Reggie White. He has Howie Roseman as the 4th on his Mount Rushmore. And he says that Reggie is known more as a Packer, so he doesn't get a spot. Same with Andy in Kansas City. The Mount Rushmore is Eagles. And he's got a point with Reggie White, because while he had his most productive and his most seasons with the Eagles, do most people think of Reggie as an Eagle, or do most people think of Reggie as both or a Packer?
I only saw him play as a Packer. So, I was bummed that I was when I was informed as a kid that he was an Eagle, I was like, oh, well, that would have been cool.
So Vince says Reggie's an Eagle. Jimbo agrees because Jimbo is my age. I think Jimbo's 45. Vince is 40. So we remember Reggie. Reggie is one of the best defensive players in the history of football. Probably go Lawrence Taylor first. Reggie's easily top 3. So I want him to be an Eagle. I never wanted him to leave, but I can't make the case that at the very least he isn't shared by the Packers and the Eagles. And the fact that he won a Super Bowl with the Packers, and I have the image of him running on the field after they win and then holding the Lombardi trophy, it's tough for me. It's more difficult for me than a lot of people would probably think to put him on there. But then again, do you go Chuck Bednarik? Chuck Bednarik's considered, he's a Hall of Famer. He's considered one of the best players of his era. Now, can I go back to 1960? It's
No.
hard for us to do that.
That's a 1,000% zero for me. But like every time someone's ever brought him up to me in this scenario of conversation, I'm like, I could never put him on there because it's just like, how does that correlate to any success that this organization has had?
Right. All right. So Brian Dawkins, yes. Jason Kelsey, I don't know how you don't put Jason Kelsey on there. And I'm sorry, Donovan McNabb doesn't belong there over Fletcher Cox. Donovan McNabb doesn't belong there over, let me think of somebody else that.
So the way it ran through my head when you said it was and I'm not going to, we can have this argument, conversation, whatever, if you really want to, but it's a conversation I think is old and tired. He's the best quarterback in our franchise history. And how many teams do you think could say that they wouldn't put their best quarterback on the Mount Rushmore of teams? Like, how many other teams in the NFL do you think could say that?
I don't know. I'd have to go through. I mean, but let's be 100% here with Donovan McNabb. Donovan was a very good quarterback. He had a good run in Philadelphia. Let's not exaggerate how great of a quarterback he was. He's not a Hall of Famer. He's not going to get in the Hall of Fame. Should the Eagles have retired his number? If they want to retire his number, whatever, they can retire his number. He is.
I would say yes, but I think if he was more loved, his number would be retired. Like if he wasn't,
that's part of it.
No, but I'm just saying, like if he had his stats, if Nick Foles had his stats, it would be with the Super Bowl, like as a backup, it would be white and day difference.
That's it. That's it right there. Because you can talk about we're talking about appetizers. We're talking about green beans, cream spinach, mashed potatoes, or whatever. Because the sizzle in the steak is he got to one Super Bowl and he came up small in so many big freaking games. Argue that. When the lights were shining the brightest, he played poorly. He won a lot of big games. He won a lot of games. You have to get to NFC Championship games, you have to win a lot of games. He also had the best coach in NFL, one of the best coaches in NFL history. And he had an offensive line. He had a good defense. I know he didn't have great wide receivers. It was also a different game then. And he didn't have great wide receivers. And that was bullshit by Andy and the Eagles. He was a part of a well-run organization, and he was a good player. But when the lights were shining the brightest, he came up small. And that's just reality. I don't hate Donovan.
No, it's 100% facts. I'm a stats guy, so I look at the stats and I just see that really no one in this organization touches his stats.
Well, I mean, but is that because of how many years he played for the Eagles, or is that because he was really that good? He was a top 3 quarterback for 2 or 3 years.
At least 3 years. At least.
Right, top 5 quarterback for 4 or 5 years.
That stretch, that's always been my argument. He easily could have been like the best quarterback any given year in those 4 years they went to the NFC Championship.
Well, the best quarterback. All right, but up there, he was.
No, I'm saying
one of the top quarterbacks.
That's what I mean. Like in the top 5. So it's like any given week, he could have been the best quarterback that week. Like it wasn't like, oh, this guy who sucks and came off the bench had this 500-yard game through five touchdown passes. Like I'm saying, no, between him, Dante Culpepper, Mike Vick, these guys were putting up crazy stat games at that given time.
Right. No, it's true.
And he was doing it with nothing.
and by the way, with saying all this too, Philip Rivers is going to be in the Hall of Fame. I take Donovan every day of the week over a stat compiler like Philip Rivers. Philip Rivers, what the freak did he ever win? He was a good quarterback.
I like Philip Rivers.
I would take Donovan to win a game, honestly. Or I would take Donovan for a season. Same roster, same team. I'll take Donovan over Philip Rivers.
I like McNabb, but I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that.
Philip Rivers was a compiler, and the only reason he gets...
Philip Rivers played the whole AFC Championship game with a torn ACL and didn't leave the game. McNabb's throwing up on the field.
Well, then that's why he's not on my Mount Rushmore.
I'm just saying.
I think Donovan was a winning player. He's a winning player, no doubt about it. Donovan, we forget.
And he's the kickstart to what this organization, those teams are what built like this organization. Not him. Those teams, that era is what turned us into like a premier organization where we expected to win every year. We expected to compete every year. We expected to have a shot at the Lombardi every year.
He just when he lost, and people talk about him stopping running, but when he lost, when he wasn't able to get away from pressure as much, and he wasn't able to make off schedule plays, that's really when because he was never a great quarterback. That like the TO year, he was peaking as a quarterback, yes. And he developed into a really good passing quarterback. But for the most part, we know like he didn't throw to open spots. He wasn't a rhythm passer. He threw to guys that were open, right? And I'm not even trying to kill him for this.
It's not a criticism. It's just a statement of
facts. It's just what he was.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
I agree. But I think of like the 4th and 26. Like I think about those those playoff runs. Like they were so fun. He was amazing. They were so fun as a kid. As a kid,
he was a great player.
He definitely has a spot. Like he has a special place for me. I understand that he's not like loved, but I just say like if he was more of like a teddy bear personality with the stats that he has,
it'd be a no-brainer.
It'd be like no one would argue with you. That's what I'm saying. Like people like just like, and then they go, "Oh, his stats aren't that good." I'm like, if you loved him, you'd be saying these stats are fine. That's my thing with him.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Yeah, like to me, and I know that you could say, well, like it's a defensive tackle, and we're talking about Donovan. Fletcher Cox won a championship. Sorry, like he did. He won a championship. Harold Carmichael. How do you like? It's so hard. It's so hard. But I mean, Jason.
And how is an Eagles Mount Rushmore not steered more toward this era where they won a Super Bowl
championship, right?
And they are a premier organization where they are considered in the top 5 teams every year for what, the last 5 years, 6 years now?
And let's face it, when you do the Mount Rushmore, isn't some of this about popularity too?
Yes, 100%.
Right? Like you can say, all right, he's one of the best 5 Eagles of all time, but if he's not beloved by the entire fan base, then can you really put the face up there? And I think that's where a guy like Lane Johnson ends up being on the Mount Rushmore.
So I was actually going to bring that up with Jason Kelce. It's like, how is it Lane not like ahead of Kelce? Like Lane's been like
still playing.
So if we're going just on playing career, it's got to be Lane.
He's a better player.
He's been a better. He like from day one to now, he's been like a premier right tackle in this league.
But you talk about.
He was a 4th overall pick, athlete, was a tight end, quarterback in high school and college. And like he's a freaking ridiculous athlete. He's a freak of nature. And it's like, and Kelce became a Hall of Fame center 100%. But Lane Johnson had these intangibles from Jump Street.
Yeah. Hey, and remember, everybody thought that Chip was gonna take what was it?
Deion Jordan.
Yeah, Deion Jordan, who was a total bust.
And he went number 3 to Miami, right in front of us.
And I remember, and like you'll say it, but it's never exciting when you draft an offensive lineman, especially that high, right? Yep. And you're like, oh, offensive lineman, what a great draft pick that was, man. He's been
and he was easily the best
football.
He was the best one. Like Eric Fisher went 1 to the Chiefs. I don't even remember who 2 was, but then it was Deion Jordan.
It was it Jokel? What year was this draft? Did we lose Delco Steve again?
Am I back?
You're back. That was a good run you had. Okay. There. Let me see. Yeah, it's 2013 NFL draft. Yeah, because Eric Fisher was disappointment. He wasn't a total bust.
Jordan.
Deion Jordan bust.
He wasn't a bust. He was a serviceable tackle.
Right.
Jokel. He went to the Jags.
Jokel went to the Jags.
He went to the Jaguars. Yep.
He only played 50 games. Eric Fisher's played 132 games.
Yeah.
So
he just retired recently.
He did. Yeah,
so he was on the first Super Bowl team with the Chiefs, I believe.
He was. So he retired in 2020 in 2021. His last season was 2021 with but you think about this. Eric Fisher, Luke Jokel, Deion Jordan. I mean, 2 or 3 of those are busts. Ezekiel Ansah, who was a I guess you call him a boy. He had 50 sacks. That's not a bust, but still.
He was to Detroit.
Yes. Yep. Martavius Mingo.
He went to where did he go?
Cleveland.
Carolina?
Cleveland.
Cleveland. No, that was Mingo.
Oh, we lost him again. This is one of the worst drafts ever. Jonathan Cooper, the guard to Arizona, Tavon Austin, D. Milner, Chance Warmack, DJ Fluker, DJ Hayden, Sheldon Richardson, who was good, Star Latulele, Kenny Vaccaro, EJ Manuel, Jarvis Jones, Eric Reed, Justin Pugh, Lane Johnson's on that Mount Rushmore. For sure. Lane or JP. Delco Steve's not having fun tonight. I need to get Jimbo on here. He's got some good questions here. All right, McNabb in his prime or Jalen Hurts right now?
Hey.
All right, McNabb in his prime or Jalen Hurts right now?
Hurts right now.
So Jalen Hurts as a starter right now. Well, I'll say this: that Jalen,
he's already a better passer than McNabb,
and Jalen also
he's not
Jalen also plays in big games. Has played better than McNabb ever has.
Yeah, I'll take Jalen Hurts' Super Bowl game over just about any game McNabb probably ever played.
All right, so then Hurts should be on the Mount Rushmore. That's what I'm saying. Like, you can't put McNabb on the Mount Rushmore if you're taking the current quarterback over him.
All right, but like Hurts has been around for what, 3 years, 4 years now as the starter. It's just like I'm an this is an accumulation of stats of like award to me.
How about this? I would put Nick Foles on the Mount Rushmore over Donovan McNabb.
All right, so this is when you first asked me, like this would never be mine, but like I feel like 90% of Eagles fans, it would be that 3 of the spots are Howie, Doug, and Nick Foles.
All right, so I don't think you can put Howie on the Mount Rushmore because fans don't like him.
I can't stand him.
You know when fans quote unquote like him or tolerate him is when the Eagles are winning. Because the minute they start losing,
can't wait. I'm excited.
Oh man, like sharpen up the knives, brother.
I'm gonna be banging the shit out of that drum. I can't wait.
All right. Well,
good thing I haven't been holding my breath this whole time because I would have been dead a long time ago.
Wow. So there's some strong opinions on McNabb being better than Jalen Hurts.
It's a completely different game now. It's like it's hard to even compare the two.
It's hard to compare errors. You're right.
It's especially like they're throwing the ball so much now. It's like I don't know. Like, can McNabb even? I don't even know if McNabb would even last a season in this league the way he pegged people in the shins at times.
No, but also would he be a better passer? Because I mean, you got to realize when he was at Syracuse, they were running the freaking wishbone some of the time. Their offense. He wasn't. That wasn't a.
So would he have developed better at a younger age?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I do that. I use that like kind of argument in the LeBron, like MJ, who's better. It's like if MJ had the training LeBron had growing up, like imagine what he would be.
He would have been a better 3-point shooter because they didn't shoot threes back then, so he didn't shoot threes, right? Like he was like LeBron, and he's not the best 3-point shooter, but a lot of his game is shooting threes, like in the modern NBA. What do you think Jordan would look like today? Yeah, I mean it's true. Any of these, that's why. And it does suck because Donovan is going to get penalized when you have modern day quarterbacks that put up stats that'll be better than Donovan's.
His stats look terrible for a Hall of Fame resume now because guys just do that stuff in 10 years and they're done. And it's like Derek Carr probably has more passing yards than Donovan McNabb, and I would take Donovan McNabb over Derek Carr.
Derek Carr sucks.
Exactly. That's my point. Yeah. And as you said, like you said, Phillip Rivers, like you would take McNabb over Phillip Rivers. Phillip Rivers is what, top 5 in some of these freaking categories?
Yeah,
because
he just throw.
Yep.
Phillip Rivers is so overrated.
I'm not saying he's not overrated, but I still think he's a good quarterback.
I know.
Would you take Would you take Phillip Rivers or Eli Manning?
Eli
just
Manning.
to win a game.
Eli Manning for sure. Eli Manning for sure. Yeah. Yep. You look at Phillip Rivers here, and this is how he gets in the Hall of Fame. He throws for, and this is starting at age 32. He had 4,500 yards, 42, 48, 43, 45, 43, 46, 42. And those seasons, 9-7, 9-7, 4-12, 5-11, 9-7, 5-11, 11-5. And that was with Indy. He was 11-5 that last year.
So they had the really good teams when he was like young, like where they were going to the AFC
14 and 2.
Game.
Yeah, but I mean, how many years did they really go to the because
I think they went
Schottenheimer lost all those years.
No, yeah, they lost. They lost. But I'm saying like those teams when he was younger with like Sean Merriman and like those guys were.
Yeah, but that's also part of it, dude. They had so much talent on that team.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah, so I give him respect from when at that age he with all that talent he tears his ACL and he knows if he's out like they have no shot. He plays that game. He almost wins the game with a torn ACL.
All right.
Like
so
most guys are just done.
So with Marty Schottenheimer, his first year with Marty Schottenheimer, they were 14 and 2. They lost the divisional round, so they lost their first game because they would have had a first round bye. Lost in the AFC Championship game the following year. Lost divisional round. Missed the playoffs for 3 years. Lost divisional round. Lost the wild card round, and they had a bye that year too. So like you can't tell me like in the playoffs, and this is the thing with quarterbacks with me in the playoffs. Like you look at his last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, like he won one playoff game, he won one playoff game really in his last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Dude, I'm gonna Google his playoff record right now.
Playoff record.
I mean, he won regular season games. He was a good quarterback, but when
5 and 7.
Nope.
Yeah.
Nope.
So the reason I asked him or Eli was because like Eli has the.
Oh, we lost him again. Yep. Well, I mean, to Delco Steve's point, Eli Manning has one of the weirdest careers of any player that I can remember or bring up. Literally one of the weirdest careers ever. Because he has 2 Super Bowl MVPs, and there were years where the Giants were horrible and he sucked. Now he compiled stats too. He's barely 500, or is he one game under 500? I think Eli Manning. And he gets in the Hall of Fame because he has a double Super Bowl MVP. Career record. Here he is again. Delco Steve.
Back.
Eli's 118 and 118. Eli Manning has the weirdest career of any NFL player ever.
Good with the 2 Super Bowl rings and very average.
He's 500
regular season stats.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's 118 and 118. And you look at the.
Did you ever look at Joe Namath's stats? Just
he sucks.
Oh my God, brutal.
Well, look at Terry Bradshaw's stats. Again, it was a different era. He won, but he wasn't a great quarterback. They won. Yeah, Joe Namath gets in the Hall of Fame because he guaranteed a win and they won. And the Jets won. That's it.
Yep.
He's not a Hall of Fame quarterback.
But Eli gets Super Bowls. We agree on that?
What?
Eli gets into the Hall of Fame because he won the 2 Super Bowls, correct? We agree on that?
It's the only reason.
Right. So, but there's plenty of people who will say that he doesn't belong even with that. And beat the greatest team of all time.
Yeah, I wouldn't argue with people that say that he doesn't belong in the Hall of Fame with 118 and 118 because without the 2 Super Bowls, he's not a Hall of Famer. But he's got the 2 Super Bowls.
And he's got 2 MVPs.
And the 2 Super Bowl MVPs. He's got 2 Super Bowl MVPs, and you had signature moments in the Super Bowl that was Eli Manning. Period. Yep. I mean, like that's why I say it's the strangest career of a player like that. He was not a smooth quarterback. The Eli face and everything else, it's so weird. He's just such a weird player.
I love how Daniel Jones is Eli like reincarnated, by the way.
Yep.
saved on faces. It's hilarious.
Well, by the way, Trevor Lawrence gets like $200 million guaranteed today.
Woo!
Tonight it comes out.
Yeah.
Like,
How does he tie Joe Burrow for the biggest contract?
So, and we'll end on this because I know I know our hour is up here. So the longer that Jerry Jones waits to pay Dak Prescott, unless he's not going to pay Dak Prescott, like how much of a fool is Jerry Jones and the Cowboys? Because now that they've waited for CeeDee Lamb and they've refused to pay him, and now every wide receiver has gotten paid, what's CeeDee Lamb worth now? Well, whatever the top wide receiver is, he's pretty much worth that.
But to be paid higher than Justin Jefferson too.
Right. Yeah. I mean,
I'm a Jefferson guy for sure, but he's got the argument. He's got more touchdowns than Justin Jefferson.
But if like nobody's going to say Trevor Lawrence is better than any of these quarterbacks that he's paid more. He's just the next guy around. So that's why look at the Eagles. They paid Devontae not even that long ago, but Justin Jefferson was waiting for these other wide receivers to get paid so he could get paid more. Now CeeDee Lamb, out of the Cowboys' own stupidity, waited out this whole thing. Now he's going to get paid more than all of them. Dak Prescott, now with Trevor Lawrence, $55 million average salary, $200 million guaranteed, $142 million at signing, $37.5 million signing bonus. And by the way, like the Jags, it's a smart move. You sign him. Even if you don't like, I don't believe in Trevor Lawrence. I don't think Trevor Lawrence is winning the Super Bowl. I'd be sick if I was a Jags fan. Because I don't think Trevor Lawrence, I think he's a playoff quarterback, but he's showed me no reason to believe that he's going to win a Super Bowl. But he's a bona fide franchise quarterback. You got to pay these guys. That's why you pay Jalen Hurts. If they suck, then you say, well, we're screwed, and you get rid of them as soon as you can. They paid Carson Wentz. Yeah. Dak Prescott, like, why wouldn't you just sign him unless you don't plan on bringing Dak Prescott back? The Cowboys are so stupid. I love it.
Is there another defensive player coming up that can get signed before they sign Micah Parsons too?
So
that would be.
It's also cost them. So it's cost them on this too. Micah Parsons is going to want to be the highest paid non-quarterback, and Justin Jefferson just became the highest paid non-quarterback. So Micah Parsons now, that contract has screwed the Cowboys two ways.
Because didn't Bosa have that? Nick Bosa have that with San Fran?
Yes,
being the highest paid non-quarterback
before Jefferson.
Yes.
Right.
So now it's going to be that like pissing contest.
So now CeeDee Lamb, he may not get Justin Jefferson money. He's going to get close. If the Cowboys would have signed him when they could have, they probably would have spent
AJ Brown.
Yeah. You spend less money. And this whole thing, like when you hear the Cowboys talk, they're like, oh, we have cap issues. And that's because Dak Prescott's making like $60 million on the salary cap. All the smart franchises sign him.
Extended him, he wouldn't have that problem.
When you spread out the cap hits. And that's why the Eagles are always in great cap space.
Yep.
Everybody that talks about how he's so smart with the cap, it's really not that complicated. You just have to be willing to pay money. Yes, we could. We literally could.
That's why I hate when everyone loves Howie.
Oh,
that's why I give Lurie the credit for that. That's why I give Lurie the credit for all those things, because Lurie's the one cutting the check. If you have an owner like, and I think I've said this before on here, if you had an owner, we do not have Howie Roseman doing Howie Roseman things. It's plain and simple.
Nope. You have to be more creative. Yeah, at Turtle Power, the quarterback money ain't stopping, brother. So if Jerry Jones lets him walk, what do you think? That he's not going to have a market? Any team that needs a quarterback is going to give him that kind of money. You're not getting away from it. When you have a quarterback, like I'm not telling, like if Jerry Jones said, you know what, this ain't good enough, Dak Prescott can leave, I would say, you know what, that's a ballsy move, Jer. But if you don't believe that he's the guy, then all right, let him go. But I don't believe that's what he's going to do. For me, like this is an ego thing with Jerry Jones for me. It's an ego thing that it's like, nah, I'm not paying him. Like he's on record. He actually has a quote. What was it he said? I heard Ross Tucker talking about it on Dan Patrick's show. He said something that he more or less wanted to see another year from these guys. What do you mean you want to see another year? Sure, I'm sure you would like to see another year. I'm sure the Eagles would have liked to see another year from Jalen Hurts. I'm sure the Jags would have liked to see another year from Trevor Lawrence. I'm sure every team. Remember when Kyler Murray, he was like, "You're going to give me a new contract," and the Cards were trying not to give him a contract, and his agent was going nuts about it. Murray was going nuts about it, and he got a new contract. It's because these guys get contracts. You don't play hardball with these players, or you end up getting screwed. So you give them the contract, but I mean, I think that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, Dak's only 30 years. Hypothetically speaking, he's got 10 years of shelf life left. Where if it's like you said, another team's going to pick him up next year if the Cowboys don't sign him,
and it's going to give him a big contract. And then the Cowboys are
get something more like the Jared Goff type deal than these younger guys that are signing, but he's still going to get a huge freaking contract.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
I did my best.
Smart move, by the way, and we'll end with this. Hassan Reddick not reporting for mandatory OTAs up there in New York, and he'll be fine for that. He just spoke to the coach. He hadn't talked to Saleh until this past weekend, according to everything that's being said. And Saleh's smart and dumb enough to say it. Can you believe? I don't know if you saw this, Steve. He came out and he said that Aaron Rodgers' absence was unexcused.
Unexcused, but they knew about it. Yeah. Because he had an event. I didn't see what the event was. Though.
Colin Cowherd said he's on vacation. So whether or not,
so the way I read it, or like the quote I read was, he had a very important thing to him that he didn't want to miss.
Right.
Like,
as
okay.
opposed to oh God, this guy's a dummy. As opposed to saying that, like, you say it's an excused absence. This is Aaron Rodgers. This isn't Hassan Reddick. This isn't some guy that's being a dick and holding out. This is Aaron Rodgers. So you say
and he told you he was going to be there.
Yes. And he was, by the way, he was there all offseason. He's been there all offseason. He left Monday.
Yeah,
he was at the picture.
Monday. He was there for, yeah. It's
and his teammates came out and said that, like, they're like, oh, we're not worried about it. He's been here all offseason. And this idiot called it an unexcused absence. And then all the writers are saying that he's subject to fine and everything else. He's not on the same page. Like, what is he doing? Oh my God, he's so foolish. He really, really is a fool. But Hassan Reddick, like Howie Roseman, he was like, Hassan Reddick's like, I'm not happy. And I guess Hassan, maybe he shows up for training camp or whatever. I don't know. He also, and again, this is reported. I don't know if it's true, because sometimes you put bad information out there to try to make him look bad. But it makes sense. Teams aren't interested in giving him what he wants. The top defensive ends are making $30 million a year. If Hassan Reddick's asking for $30 million a year, he's in fantasy land. No one's giving him $30 million a year. Is he worth $24 million a year? All right. Something like that. So, I don't know. I mean, the Eagles, it looks pretty smart right now. The Eagles trade him away.
I think my...
Well, listen, I think Aaron Rodgers is in the same cave as Delco Steve and his internet connection. But at least in his guns are pretty big and everything that he's doing. Oh, there he is. Every time you freeze, your biceps are bulging, it seems like. So you're getting good angles. Wow,
because I'm sitting here like about to explode as I...
All right. Well, listen. We'll talk on Monday. All right. We needed to get the Delco wedding review, but I don't think it's going to be possible. Yep, there he is. Thank you, Jimbo. You're right. Delco Steve. Now, is it true that you're using your phone as a hotspot to connect?
My computer recommended that at one point. This is incredibly.
Well, listen, Vince, I'm not gonna disagree with you. Delco Steve has ruined the show tonight, but that's okay. We went through it. All right.
Can't do anything about it.
There's nothing you can do. Thank you for everybody for braving through the Delco Steve. Where were you the night that Delco Steve's internet connection was terrible? This is a show we'll never forget, Delco Steve. It's been a good one, though. Been a good one. All right. Yeah, so have a good weekend. What are you doing this weekend? Anything good?
Nothing. Not gonna. On Sunday, we'll probably do something more Father's Day later on.
All right, cool. All right. Well, actually, keep forgetting to do this. We need to fade out the. We say goodbye. All right. There it is. There it is. All right, everybody. Have a good rest of your night. Good weekend. We'll be back on Monday. Oh. Maybe with Herb, maybe without. Herb's mad at me, Delco Steve. I don't know if you heard me saying that.
No, I didn't. But now, of course, I don't have any internet connection things going off now.
Yeah, now it's perfect.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Okay.
All right, everybody, like, subscribe, follow, comment, and have a good night. Good weekend.